Hi, it's Martin Gibbons, and I just wanted to give you a quick video. I'll just keep this one very short, but it was a couple of case studies I wanted to share with you because it's sometimes easier to relate to real life stories, things that people have actually done to advance and move their career forward. So the first one I'm going to share with you is Julie's case study. Julie's also my wife, which actually makes this more challenging than not because, as you know, wives aren't don't listen to their husbands as the first, not their first reaction to things. So I was particularly delighted when Julie tried out some of the techniques that I show you in the three-step system and landed a job offer with us. I'll tell you about that in a wee second. And the other one was from Cal, who took one specific aspect of one of the things that we teach in the course, of which there's hundreds of things in there that you can go and try and use today. But she gives some very specific feedback, and I'll tell you a bit about Cal's experience as well. Okay, so the first thing was Julie's. Julie's was very interesting. Hadn't worked, or gone in that sense of the traditional sense, hadn't worked in a job or a career for quite some time. Had worked for herself on and off, did a lot of contract work. Came across a job locally that was essentially looked like it was written for her. It was very specific to her skill set. And through all sorts of things, including personal circumstances and other stuff, she decided, yeah, she quite fancied it. Now, what's interesting here is, up to this point, it was a very traditional approach. She saw the job advert on a job board. She applied for it in the traditional way. So she hadn't used any of the stuff that I teach really in sort of step two. She already kind of knew step one. Well, she did some of that. I'll tell you about that later. But certainly step two, which is about how to get interviews, she didn't actually really use any of that in this particular instance. She did it very traditionally, more or less like the old-fashioned kind of way. Where she did apply, what she did do differently was when it came to actually step three. She implemented step three, which is really about the interview itself, taking control of the interview. Now, I do have to point out, she only saw one job, applied for one job, and got the interview for that one job. Pretty impressive. I suspect that's more down to Julie than anything else. But this is where the story gets interesting. So we did talk about, okay, I've got this interview coming up. I'm a wee bit surprised that I've actually landed it. What do we do next? Because, as Julie says, actually I haven't been in a job interview for 10 years, 15 years. So not quite sure how to play this one. And one of the things that she did, and she did several things, but one of the things that we teach in the three-step system, and in this case it was particularly relevant, was to actually, she approached it the same ways that she would normally have approached her client projects as a consultant, which she did for many years. The last thing that I suggested she do was to treat it like a job interview. And this is really easy to say, but it's actually quite tricky to do. And I give you some background in step three of the three-step system as to exactly how you go about doing that. And it's a wee bit more involved, but the concept is simple. As soon as you start behaving like it's a job interview, then it becomes you start to lose control. That's essentially what happens. This is the psychology, if you like. And bear in mind that an awful lot of step three and an awful lot of three-step system is about the psychology, the human psychology, and that's what I've been working with for many, many years, and it's kind of what People Maps is based on. This is what makes me tick. What makes you tick is what excites and interests me, why people behave the way they do. So I share a lot of this with you in step three. So the trick there was that she didn't treat it like an interview at all from the very outset. And that meant that when they had a meeting, that there wasn't the usual interview and interviewee or interviewer and interviewee type scenario. Actually, if you had been a fly in the wall and looked at the interview, for the first 2 or 3 minutes, you might have actually been wondering who was interviewing who. And this is very important to the psychology of that experience and to create an experience that both parties leave the room going, that was really good. I actually felt that I was dealing with someone who was competent, who knew what they were doing. It was a mature adult conversation. It wasn't about Julie. That's where the conversation didn't go. The conversation it turned out, as I said, Julie followed this three-step system on step 3, and the conversation was about the job itself. It was about the challenges, it was about the issues within the job, and what Julie would be expected to do to come in and actually deal with those issues. Now, you can take this away, you can use this type of information, this case study, take it away and use it today if you want in your next interview. It applies, it works again and again, and the reason it works is because it gives employers some confidence. You see, all an employer really wants to do is make the right decision. And your job is to make that really easy for them to make the right decision. The trouble is that as soon as it starts falling into an interviewer and interviewee experience, that starts to dissolve and it leaves everybody with a, oh, I don't know if this is right or not. Whereas when you do what Julie did and you take control of the interview, and this, I said we talk about this a lot in step 3, and I'll show you exactly how you can do that. It doesn't matter where you sit in the personality spectrum. When Julie sits on the introvert scale, you can still take control of the interview and move it outside of the interview experience into a much more professional and confidence boosting experience, both for you and for the employer, who just wants to be confident about making the right hiring decision. That's what Julie did, and I'm pretty sure you can do that too if you follow the steps in step 3. Okay, that was case study 1. The next case study I briefly want to tell you about is from Cal, and Cal's really interesting. I think actually a more detailed breakdown is maybe further down the page here, I'm not sure. But Cal knew what she wanted to do, so her step 1 was quite interesting, because so she kind of figured out what it was that she wanted to do, and from my understanding of her, what she was doing, I think she was in the right track and going in the right direction, which was good. And the challenge that she was facing was actually at step 2, which was getting interviews. She even knew the company and the division that she wanted to work for, and for 3 years had been trying to get in there for an interview and make a breakthrough. And although she had a lot of relevance in the terms of her qualifications and her previous experience, it was pretty relevant. It wasn't like it was a brand new role for her. She wasn't getting anywhere. She wasn't getting even an interview. She was getting no reply. She was getting nowhere. And that, I think, had been going on for about 3 years. And meanwhile, she'd been working other jobs and trying to do stuff and things, but it was still kind of frustrating, and she knew where she wanted to take this to. Anyway, she used some of the techniques in step 2, and she used quite a few of them actually. And within a matter of, I don't know, it was 3 to 6 weeks, I can't remember exactly. But not only did she get the interview with the person and the division and the department that she wanted, but she got the job offer. And not only did she get the job offer, even to her even greater surprise, they actually came back and said, look, she got that phone call and she was thinking, oh no, this is going to all slip through my fingers and we're going to lose it. And what they'd come back and went was, we realised that we probably need more money, so we're going back up the stairs to negotiate some more money so that we can give you a better package than the one they originally offered. Cal was quite shocked at this, was quite surprised, because this so rarely happens. And the reason was that she had done some stuff in step 2, and of course she'd implemented step 3. One of the things which was a great surprise to her was what she did in step 2. Now, Cal, like many of you, had a LinkedIn profile. And it makes absolute sense, and you should be using your LinkedIn profile. But there's hundreds of millions of people with a LinkedIn profile, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're getting job invites or interviews and job offers. And one of the things that Cal did, and it's one of the things that I teach in step 2, was to remove all mention on her LinkedIn, etc., that she was job hunting, that she was available and looking for work. And that was one of the first things that she did. And although she did lots of things, actually this was one of the things that Cal specifically, now your case could be slightly different, but Cal specifically said this was the one thing for her that made all the difference. And the reason it made a difference, and let me explain briefly some of the psychology that was going on here, and this is really what's going on here, so it's not necessarily the right thing or the wrong thing to do, but it's the psychology has to be consistent. And what Cal really had to do first and foremost was establish her market in her value in the market. And what she wasn't doing with her existing LinkedIn profile and by putting on there, yeah, I'm available for jobs, I'm available for work, talk to me now. What she wasn't able to do was create her value, her high perceived market value. And as soon as she removed that and did a couple other wee things, but essentially that was what it is. As soon as she then focused on establishing her value in the market and adding the value to that, then all of a sudden, people who were ignoring her and not interested and turning away, all of a sudden get very interested. All of a sudden it was like, oh no, we would really like to talk to you, and could you maybe come in really soon and we can do it. And the whole story suddenly changed. And Cal was as surprised as anyone at this because she had changed a few small things and it had a huge impact in the results that she was experiencing. I can also, like a few months later, I have to say, after that very good news that Cal sent, and she also sent another email, there may be a copy somewhere on here, I'm not sure, that said, hey, guess what, I've had the phone call. And she had just been headhunted and promoted and put further up in her career ladder, further than she even thought would have happened within years. So within 6 months of starting this process, she had actually experienced not just a job offer, but a job offer for a job that she really wanted and had been chasing for a long time. And then she got an enhanced offer on that, and they offered her more money. And then she actually got a promotion from there into a significantly step up in her career ladder. And she can, largely speaking, I think, would put some of that down to some of these approaches that we take in the three-step system, which is largely not taught or anywhere else. And some of this, I have to confess, and this is one of the true things, much of what we actually say goes against pretty much all the standard preaching and teaching that most career advisors and most advice that you read on the internet would tell you. And this was certainly the case for Cal. She stopped doing what pretty much everybody was telling her to do and made some tweaks, and she got the result. This is why you can't just accept the traditional way doesn't work. You need to be smarter about this. And this is what the three-step system is all about. So that's a couple of stories for you. You can use that information, take it away and use it today. You can actually use what we've just talked about and try it out for yourself. Of course, if you want to do it with great detail and you want to go through the whole process and make sure that it's not just the tactics but the whole basis that's sound both in all 3 steps, then sign up, grab a place if there's any left, and we'll show you that step by step so that you can make those changes to your life too, which I'd love to see. I said that what makes my day and our team here so really delights us is we hear stories like Cal's, which is great news and really exciting when someone actually gets what they're after. And there's been a lot of people in that position. You can read some of the testimonials, but let's see if we can make that story your story. Let's see if we can get you not just a job, but that job that you really want, that one that you've been after, that one that would make a difference to you and your life, so that Monday mornings are not something you dread, but Mondays actually become something that's exciting, and you know that what you do matters and that you're making a difference and that you're appreciated by the significant people in your life for what it is you do. That's what we're after. We don't want any less than that. We shouldn't settle for any less than that. And I'll show you a whole bunch of tricks and stuff that you can go and do. And if you only applied 5% of some of the things that I show you, just half a dozen of some of the ideas and concepts that I'll share with you in the huge 3-step system, then you will be able to make a huge difference to your life. And I say again, you can read some of the testimonials that will testify to that. Okay, I'm Marshall Gibbons. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll catch you next time round.